888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Momentous day in Washington, D.C. President Trump has now been impeached for the second time, with 5 days remaining in office. We're going to go over what was said, what various politicians said in just a second. But first, I have a few general comments and thoughts. As you know, I watch a lot of CNN and MSNBC, so you don't have to. And they're going on and on and on about how there are there are 10 Republicans who joined with the Democrats to impeach Trump. Jake Tapper said that makes this a bipartisan impeachment. 10, which is 10 more than they had the first time. So, by implication, they are admitting the first one was BS, because this one is truly bipartisan. 10. Now, I have a question. Looking at the roll count, there are 435 members of Congress. Democrats hold a slight edge. I have a question. You're telling me not a single Democrat, not one stood up and said, hey, wait a second, Speaker Pelosi. Hey, I love you. You're my girl. But the man gave a speech, and now we know from the FBI that this thing had been chatter. There had been alerts that something may go down, and for whatever reason, the Capitol Hill police were not prepared. My point is, if Donald Trump spontaneously caused incitement to insurrection, what about all this chatter the FBI got long before the speech? And even if that weren't the case, not one Democrat stood up and said, wait a second. The line that's the most incendiary, if you watch CNN and MSNBC, which some talk show hosts do so we don't have to. The line that they repeat over and over again that they say is Exhibit A to show how Donald Trump was inciting violence is, he said, quote, fight like hell, end of quote.
Nothing in here. Nothing.
You're leaving out the part where he said, peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Not one Democrat stood up and said that.
They write in a funny way to protect Antifa.
Not one Democrat stood up and said, now, there's something called the Constitution, the First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Because a document was leaked or information was leaked to the Washington Post and others have taken
and speech, political speech we don't like, it's protected. Not one Democrat stood up and said, I didn't vote for Trump, of course, and hope to never see him again. And hope that he leaves this town in disgrace, yada, blah, et cetera. But not one Democrat stood up and said, this is nuts. We're now reducing impeachment to the level of a parking ticket. And as soon as the other side regains control of the House, and eventually they will, they're going to find something that a Democrat president has done that we perceive to be minor, and they're going to impeach him or her. Do we really want to start that precedent? Not one Democrat said that. Not one Democrat stood up and said, you know, to be perfectly honest, Hillary Clinton, our standard bearer last time, for 4 years, she's not only called President Trump illegitimate, she's used the dreaded S word, stolen, several times. None of us said anything. We felt it was perfectly acceptable political speech, rhetoric. But when Donald Trump says it, he's inciting an insurrection. It's not fair. I don't like the man, says at least one Democrat.
This is questions to me. What did Nancy Pelosi,
But we should be consistent.
McConnell know, and when did they know it about these threat assessments?
Here we are silent over people saying,
In a minute, with
defund the police.
among others.
Here we are silent when
2 days before
politicians and mayors are pulling back.
President-elect Joe Biden's victory, Capitol
And now we're angry because the Capitol Hill police wasn't more aggressive.
about the size of the pro-Trump crowds expected to stream into Washington in protest. To be on the safe side,
There were 25 people or so who died in the streets this summer
for permission to request that
because of the Black Lives Matter protest.
standby in case he needed.
And with all due respect, our side is demanding that
said they turned him down in his first interview since
before the election is overturned,
Capitol last week.
the Republicans have to show not only evidence, but widespread evidence of voter fraud. Well,
Take formal steps
is there evidence, let alone widespread evidence of police brutality against black people, that they're killing blacks just because they're black?
and invited to Washington
No, there isn't.
to protest
And yet we had weeks after weeks after weeks of protests in the streets,
Sergeant at Arms
says this one Democrat.
said he wasn't comfortable with the optics, quote unquote, of forming
And in many cases, we egged them on.
ahead of the demonstrations.
Kamala Harris,
Meanwhile,
our soon-to-be vice president, she called the Black Lives Matter movement beautiful.
seek out his guard contact
Well, if the premise is
to quote unquote lead
that the police are killing blacks just because they're blacks, been lots of studies that show it's not true.
not be reached for comment, a cell phone number listed in his name has not accepted.
Not one Democrat stood up and said that.
Son recalled a conference call with Pentagon officials.
Not one.
Officials from the D.C. government. He said on the call, "I'm making an urgent."
They're praising these 10 Republicans for standing up
I've got to get through
on
this,
CNN.
But the request was apparently denied.
To do what?
Optics. Remember the optics?
Maxine Waters wasn't even
Lafayette Park
reprimanded, censured, anything.
and others were attacked.
Find Trump cabinet members, surround them, form a crowd.
Of the national
Let them know they're not welcome anywhere anymore. Anywhere at all?
replied.
Not in Bangladesh, not in Fallujah.
Fischio, Chief of Staff for D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowers, admitted.
Nobody said a word.
Guys on the phone, crying out for help.
Nothing.
It's burned in my memories.
Schumer stands outside the Supreme Court and literally threatens Brett Kavanaugh and Gorsuch.
Despite the president calling for peace,
Anybody suggests that they should be censured, reprimanded, impeached?
their own article admits the quote first wave of protesters arrived at the Capitol. About
You will reap the whirlwind?
President Trump's speech didn't conclude until 1:11 p.m. And with at least a 45-minute walk
Hillary Clinton says that
with crowd-related delays
Donald Trump should be impeached for the second time, and
from Trump's speech at Capitol Hill no earlier
it
than
won't, however, rid the country, she said, of white supremacy.
15 minutes after troublemakers arrived, they write. In fact,
Trump should be impeached a second time, but, says Hillary, it will not remove white supremacy from the country.
in time for the events, as they are detailed by authorities. The Washington Post also states
One more time,
outer
the city
perimeter the Capitol
of over 100,000 that most voted for Donald Trump, Abilene, Texas,
The Capitol was
around
for
80%.
Trump's speech attended
Guess
even
which
as
city
begun to
of 140 years of age has voted for a black mayor?
Son's interview where he admits
Abilene, Texas.
1 p.m.
700 counties, 2008, 2012, voted for Obama.
1 p.m. Again,
200 of them switched to Trump, 2016.
any Trump speech
When were they bitten by the racist radioactive spider? I am Larry Elder. Don't leave town.
downtown Washington roads were closed. There was no way of arriving fast, but let alone before the president had finished speaking.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
The last year we have seen BLM Incorporated rioters burn down the cities of our country with very little to any of arrests happen. We saw Antifa go after conservatives and kill a conservative in the street of Portland. We saw the Russia hoax and 0 people be held accountable to it. From Peter Strzok to Lisa Page to Brennan to Clapper. We saw this entire voter fraud nonsense unfold. We saw the Ukrainian impeachment hoax earlier in the year. Hillary has never been even close to being indicted for what she did from the Clinton Foundation or from Uranium One. How about Hunter Biden? You think Hunter Biden's ever going to serve serious time in jail? How about the lockdowns? I don't trust any institution that exists anymore in our country, and you shouldn't either. I don't trust many of our leaders that legislate. I don't trust our corporations. I don't trust our universities. And I don't trust the media. Now, that's not to say that violence is justified. That's not the point. The point is that if you lazily and sloppily slap a label onto these people and say, oh, they're insurrectionists, like, hold on a second. Get a little bit deeper and a little bit more nuanced of what's happening in our country right now. What drives them? They don't trust their system is what is driving them.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
You know what? I saw Ron DeSantis say something the other day that really, really got to me. He said the highlight of my life, of my job, of my existence is to have people come up to me now and with tears in their eyes and say, thank you, Governor DeSantis. Thanks to you, my family still has an income. I still have a job. Thanks to you, I've been able to survive this horrific year. You should see New York. Oh, my goodness. It's terrible what New Yorkers have experienced and are continuing to experience. And believe me, look at the comparisons of New York and Florida. It's very apt. So here's Governor DeSantis at that press conference where a CNN reporter was strutting around like a peacock trying to embarrass him and talk over him. And he completely bested her with this exchange.
What has gone wrong with the rollout of the vaccine that we've seen phone lines jammed, websites crashing?
It's a lot of demand. I mean, I think at the end of the day, excuse me.
If I could finish my question.
You just said what has gone wrong, so I'm answering the question.
If I could complete the question, though.
So you're going to give a speech or you're going to ask a question?
We've seen websites crash and also senior citizens waiting overnight for the vaccine.
Where was that at?
We've seen it in Duval, Broward, Orange, and Lee.
Why was there a big line? Did you investigate why?
Could you tell us why?
Because we distributed vaccine to hospitals, and the hospital said, first come, first serve. If you show up, we'll do it.
See, I mean, these CNN clowns aren't interested in any kind of answers. She doesn't care about a response. She wants to posture and behave more like an activist than a reporter.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
You can concentrate, and should, on the terrible events of yesterday. But if that's all you think about, you will do the country no.
When it comes to investing for retirement, it's not what you think you know or what you've been told. It's what you need to know. Get the good, bad, and ugly about investment choices when you listen to Greg.
Shalom, Sage. This is Scott from Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's amazing to me how they have all of these pronouns and words that you can and cannot say because it triggers people. But yet, calling Trump racist is not one of those things that apparently you cannot say. And that is the hottest trigger button for blacks everywhere, as far as my understanding. I mean, everywhere that I've been, you call somebody a racist, and that is a button. They want to deal with it. They want to get in their face. They want to do something about it. And yet, this is not mentioned in all of the things that we need to be careful not to trigger people of. It's just amazing to me. Hey, I love your show, man. Thanks, Sage. Shalom.
Shalom. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. I want to comment about Trump triggering people in just a second. Now, are you looking for some entertainment that'll lift you up and leave you inspired? If so, I want to encourage you to go to SalemNow.com, watch Poor to CEO, The Incredible Journey of Herman Cain. Herman was beloved by all, and his rise from humble beginnings to CEO of Godfather's Pizza is an inspirational story. Add to that a presidential run in 2012, a victorious battle over cancer, and a flourishing career in Atlanta radio. Herman was an amazing man whose life embodied the values we strive to live and pass along to our kids and grandkids. Belief in God, the power of personal responsibility, hard work, a good education, living each day with a thankful heart. Poor to CEO is one of the most inspirational, entertaining films I've watched in a long time, and you can watch it right now at salemnow.com. That's salemnow.com. And if you use my promo code Larry, you're going to save 20%. Watch Poor to CEO, the Herman Cain story, salemnow.com. The Trump triggering people, the glee on the faces of these so-called journalists and pundits on non-Fox channels, and many of the Fox guests lately, is incredible. I ask you one more time, the people who are listening who hate Donald Trump's guts, tell me how America is worse off, and don't tell me worse off in race relations, because that decline took place during the Obama administration's second term. The high point, by the way, when both blacks and whites felt good about race relations, took place during the term of, wait for it, George W. Bush. Even at the beginning of Obama's second term, it was pretty high. It fell dramatically during Obama's second term. And I know you're not going to say the economy. And by the way, for all the things you say about how Donald Trump won this race, lost this race, blah, 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 in 2016, how Hillary lost it, the primary reason is because of the economy. Had the recovery been a robust recovery, Hillary would have won this election in 2016. But Obama presided over, one more time, the worst economic recovery since 1949. Yeah, the economy improved, as it always does. But he shackled it with more taxes, more regulations, which made the recovery tepid. So tell me how. Are we worse off in the Middle East? Please. All these peace deals that have been done now with all these Gulf state countries, deals that John Kerry, the former Secretary of State, said would be impossible without Palestinian buy-in. Every single one of those deals was done without Palestinian buy-in. Don't tell me China. China is being stood up against for the first time in a very long time. North Korea? Are we worse off with North Korea? We may not be better off. We're not any worse off. And we haven't heard a peep from Rocket Man in a while. We're better off on immigration. As much as Donald Trump has been called racist because of his immigration policies, have you heard much about what President-elect Joe Biden plans to do in terms of reversing it? Are you unhappy that the caravans have stopped? Are you unhappy that illegal immigration has slowed down? Are you unhappy that we're having a real discussion about what kind of legal immigrants we want and how many? Are you unhappy about that discussion? I don't think you are. Didn't come up during the campaign. We are now energy independent because of what Donald Trump has done in terms of relaxing rules and encouraging fracking. Is that a bad thing? One of the reasons we're in the Middle East is because of our one-time dependence on oil dependency we no longer have. Is that a bad thing? We pulled out of the climate change agreement. I know those of you on the left believe that it's a wonderful agreement. You know that we've done better in reducing greenhouse gas emissions in those states that are in the climate change agreement in the last few years? We're worse off because Donald Trump has signed the First Step Act that has allowed now about 5,000 prisoners, mostly black men, to have their sentences reconsidered and reduced an average of around 75 months. Are we worse off because Donald Trump pardoned Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion, who was convicted of violating the Mann Act, M-A-N-N, an act that was enacted to prevent the transportation of women across state lines for illicit purposes. In other words, he had a white girlfriend, drove her across state line, and got nailed. Did time. Obama didn't pardon him. 15-year effort led by Ken Burns, the lefty of PBS, and Sylvester Stallone, the actor. They approached George W. Bush. They approached Obama. Neither would do it. Trump did. Are we worse off? A lot of countries don't like America anymore, or our stature in the world is... Really? Where? How?
Act. In other words, there was pre-planning for some element.
George W. Bush went BMW about how the NATO countries were not living up to their financial commitments.
By the New York Times.
Barack Obama went BMW about how the NATO countries were not living up to their financial commitments. Donald Trump did, and they ponied up more money. Are we worse off?
Okay, now that's the New York Times timeline.
Tell me where we're worse off. I know you hate his guts.
Question that remains unanswered. How could Trump incite an attack that had already been pre-planned and was in motion before his speech ended?
You know, and it's not about intelligence. Trump derangement syndrome. I've told you about my friend, my good friend I've known for some 40 years. At one time, one of my closest friends. We now cannot speak to each other because of Trump. He has a son with special needs and is convinced that Donald Trump, quote, mocked a handicapped reporter, end of quote. I wrote him a very long letter. I explained that the gesture that Donald Trump used to make fun of that reporter was a gesture that he uses to make fun of himself. He's used it to make fun of an able-bodied general. He used it to make fun of people that he thinks are not stand-up guys. And in the case of that so-called handicapped reporter, Donald Trump, early on in his administration, you might recall, made some statement about observing Muslims celebrating the fall of the Twin Towers. And when, of course, everybody's hanging on every word Donald Trump says, the reporter said, there's no evidence of that, there's no evidence of that. And he found a story written by a reporter in which the reporter described watching Muslims celebrate the fall of the towers. So they went to that reporter and they said, did you write this? Did you see this? And the reporter began to back down. And then Donald Trump went like this. Reporter said, I don't know, I don't remember, and began gesturing like this. There's a series of videos where Donald Trump is using that gesture to mock himself and to mock others on a website called Catholics for the number 4 Trump. All of which I sent to my friend. It didn't matter. He didn't want to unhate Trump. I'm Larry Yoder.
Now, to help protect my listeners, Swiss America has a very special offer. Silver Walking Liberty $50.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
You can concentrate, and should, on the terrible events of yesterday. But if that's all you think about, you will do the country no service. This country is completely divided. Something I've said we've been in a civil war. And I said for so long, we're in a civil war and only one side is fighting. For the last 4 years, Republicans have fought. Among the other consequences of yesterday's mob, and it was a mob in the Capitol, is the way in which, at least for the time being, history has a time of leveling things. The Donald Trump legacy has been smeared truly beyond recognition. I don't know whether the results, I have had the same position the entire time. I use the word agnostic. I don't know. The circumstantial evidence of cheating and the 100% moral defense of cheating that would accompany almost anyone on the left, and would have to. I will make the argument once again. If you believe that one of the two candidates is a fascist, is a dictator, is a white supremacist racist, why would you not cheat if you could to prevent that person from being president? I would.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Governor, you were the first of the major Republican contenders in 2016 to endorse the president. Do you regret that decision?
I do not, Hugh. I do not, because I knew when I dropped out of that race and then after the South Carolina primary that none of the other people on that stage were going to beat Donald Trump. He was going to be the Republican nominee, and I was completely committed, in fact, in some ways desperate, to make sure that Hillary Clinton was not the next president of the United States. And when you look at the tax cuts, the regulation cuts, most importantly, the judicial nominees, The problem is that the president's behavior at times has obscured his accomplishment.
Oh, I agree. The JCPOA and the Abraham Accords, there's a great list. Will that now always have appended to it, as Nixon has resignation appended to him, the riot and insurrection of Wednesday?
Of course it will. That was a scene and a set of actions that really, I think, shook the American people. And those images, I don't think will ever leave anyone who was watching them. Well, I don't believe the president intended for what happened to happen. But I think, as has happened for all of the 8 weeks used since the election, the president put first and foremost his perception that this election was stolen from him, and his personal grievances were put first, and he used them on Wednesday to fire up that crowd.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
So now me at 27, I can now play historian. So let me tell you what's about to happen, okay?
Sure.
When Democrats have unified government, they're going to reach too big, and they're going to
Everybody's in some way connecting somewhere.
Hi, Larry. My name's Rhonda. I'm in Ohio. I want to tell you that you are the best radio host that there is. And I want to tell you I was at the Capitol during the siege. I think people need to use a little common sense. If we were going to try to attack the Capitol, we would have brought weapons. We would not have had people there in wheelchairs and people who use walkers and canes, and we would have left the children at home. So there was never a plan. The plan was to be peaceful and just be there. I don't know what exactly happened because I did not even know there was any violence until the next day. Some of my friends were texting me saying, what's going on? It looks terrible with the media, but I didn't really know what they were talking about. And I did not know people were inside until right as we were leaving.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio.
Wouldn't you take it seriously?
That's another reason why this thing is so ridiculous. This article in the Daily Wire, headline, Trump declares state of emergency to protect inauguration amid FBI warnings of huge uprising, end of quote. Well, the FBI apparently warned of an extremist plot to attack Congress on January 6th, according to the Washington Post. Quote, a situational information report approved for release the day before the U.S. Capitol riot painted a dire portrait of dangerous plans, including individuals sharing a map of the complex's tunnels and possible rally points for would-be conspirators to meet up in Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and South Carolina and head in groups to Washington.
Now, I pointed out earlier.
It also said as of 5 January, FBI Norfolk received information indicating calls for violence in response to unlawful lockdowns to begin January 6, Washington, D.C. Online thread discussed specific calls for violence to include stating be ready to fight. Congress needs to get to hear glass breaking, doors being kicked in and blood, and get violent, get ready for war. Nothing else will achieve this goal. That was a document that they found. My point is, Donald Trump is accused of inciting insurrection by giving a speech. All this stuff is going on before the speech. Not one Democrat stood up and said that. I was saying before the break, it's nothing to do with intelligence. My friend I mentioned who insists that Donald Trump mocked a handicapped reporter even though he did no such thing. And by the way, the reporter has an atrophied arm. He doesn't wobble the way Trump was wobbling when he did the impression of him. That was meant to say the reporter one time said this, and now he's doing a retreat. My friend has had a perfect score on the SAT. Do you know anybody with the perfect score on his or her SAT? He had it. And when I sent him the long letter, and I sent him the link, Catholics for Trump, I just knew he was going to read the letter and then go, you know, I gotta stand down on this one. But he didn't. He doubled down. And it occurred to me, this man hated Donald Trump and did not want to unhate him. That construct was easier. Black, white, hate the guy. Easier. If what Elder says is true, then I have to have a much more nuanced position, and that requires way too much work. The reason I say this is not a matter of intelligence, I told you the story yesterday of my friend in Chicago, Artie. He has an auto shop. Guy walks in and is gleeful that Donald Trump got defeated. And Artie said, why? He's careful, of course, talk about politics. Customer said, well, because Donald Trump is a racist. And Artie hears my show. He knows my talking points. Started rattling them off. What about the lowest unemployment ever for blacks? Oh, I don't believe that happened. You don't believe that under Donald Trump, blacks had the lowest unemployment ever? No, I don't. He mentioned the First Step Act about all the people that have had their prison sentences reconsidered, many of whom are black. He didn't believe it. He didn't believe Donald Trump did it. He mentioned the money for historically black colleges, the pardons. This guy says, I don't believe he did any of those things. I don't think this customer had a perfect score on his SAT, but he had the same attitude that my friend did. I don't want to unhate him. It's more comfortable for me to hate him. Trump derangement syndrome. I'm Larry Elder.
The sizable intelligence failure that preceded the mayhem, which claimed the lives of 5 people.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
I mean, there's a lot of Republicans, oh, okay, thank you, CNN, rush to CNN. You shouldn't give CNN the time of day. Why? Anybody you see on CNN or any of these anti-Republican, anti-conservative outlets, that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. If you're cozying up to the media elites, you are telling the world who you really are. Again, I love this comment I saw on social media last night. It gave me a little bit of hope after a despondent evening. Fun fact, the ruling elite are terrified of an angry general populace. Listen, they despise people like Ron DeSantis because he stands up to jerks like that lady.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
And the president is addicted to social media and to television and to division, and he's been lying to the American people for 8 straight weeks and planned it long before. No matter what was happening in any state, he was going to say the election was being stolen and the people needed to rise up.
So,
on
Senator,
Wednesday morning, he said repeatedly to go wild when you get to the Capitol. They went to the Capitol and some went wild. Now, let's be clear here. There are 30,000 people here. The vast majority of them are honorable, freedom-loving people. The vast majority of them, but not all of them.
Do you think he intended for the riot and the occupation, the insurrection to happen?
I think Donald Trump wanted there to be massive division, and he was telling people there was a path by which he was going to stay in office after January 20th. That was never true, and he wanted chaos on television. I don't have any idea what was in his heart about what he wanted to happen once they were in the Capitol, but he wanted there to be chaos, and I'm sure you've also had conversations with other senior White House officials, as I have.
I have.
As this was unfolding on television, Donald Trump was walking around the White House confused about why other people on his team weren't as excited as he was, as you had rioters pushing against Capitol Police trying to get into the building.
That said, should he be impeached and removed?
I think that there are a lot of questions that we need to get to the bottom of about why the National Guard was not deployed. I want to understand more about why the National Guard wasn't deployed when there had been clear calls for it. and then why that delay happened. So there are more things that I need to understand before I get to a conclusory judgment about that. But I think that the question of was the president derelict in his duty, that's not an open question. He was.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Order. I tell you what, it's law and order when you want to smear Republicans, but it's a peaceful protest when you're burning the city down for the devil.
Well, that's unfortunately, Lance, many of us know that exactly what you're saying, that is true. So the question is, what do we do? In other words, will we have the ability going forward to keep the republic? I mean, that's the question. I have said that if Biden gets in, either way, fraudulently or legitimately, he and his folks are going to take us down a path that destroys our ability to recover.
It is important that we, in our movement, recognize we are a movement, and that Donald Trump is willing to still lead that movement. And that movement is going to redefine politics in the Republican Party. And that movement is going to damage the Democrats. And what we must beware of is what happened yesterday cannot ever happen again. We can give them the gift of having us for a moment do
by black and white officers. You want us to believe that all of them are lying because it's just the statistics show something different. So I guess, George Floyd should have just not resisted arrest, and James Blake should have not reached in his car, and Trayvon Martin should have just answered the question of a random white man that accosted him on the streets. And I know Emmett Till, he shouldn't have just never looked at the white woman. So I understand, Larry, that makes perfect sense from someone that's in the Klan.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Wow. I'm on the air for 3 hours live every afternoon from 3 p.m. Pacific time to 6 p.m. Pacific time. 888-971-7243 is my number. I would love to have the gentleman call me and engage me live. Let me deal with some of what you said. I want to get back to the double impeachment of President Trump. You said, because I don't believe there is, quote, systemic racism, close quote, therefore the millions of black people who say they've witnessed abuse by police, black and white police officers, I think you said black and white police officers, are lying. I never said such a thing. I'm talking about the premise behind Black Lives Matter, which is that the police are killing blacks just because they're black. There have been a number of studies, as I pointed out earlier today and yesterday, including by a black Harvard economist, that says it's not true, that the police are more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger on a black person than a white person. Studies going back to the 70s have said this. There's an article in the Washington Post, I urge you to read it yourself, April 27, 2016. The reason I know the date is that's my birth date. Long article detailing study after study after study, corroborating the idea, the notion, the fact that the police are more hesitant to pull the trigger on a black suspect than a white suspect. Now, the only legitimate quarrel you have is that the black Harvard economist says, well, the police, however, are 18% more likely to use non-lethal force against blacks. My suspicion is the reason for that is they don't want to get to the point where they have to use deadly force. But do you think the people are in the streets because studies show the police are 3 times more hesitant to pull the trigger on a black person, but 18% more likely to use non-deadly force? Is that why people are in the street? No. They're in the streets because of this narrative that the police are killing blacks just because they're black. They're shooting blacks using deadly force, as was used against Jacob Blake, just because they're black. That's what I'm quarreling with. Now, you said, you're saying that James Blake and George Floyd, and I think you said Trayvon Martin, all, did you say Trayvon Martin? Or did you say, Trayvon Martin. They all should answer the thing. Those are all different situations. Can we do them case by case? George Floyd, yeah, he should have cooperated. When the police tell you to do something, You're supposed to cooperate. Supreme Court said California court rather, even if, I think it was California court, even if they issue an unlawful order, unless it is a company with fear of force, you have to comply. So yeah, George Floyd should have complied. Trayvon Martin, a different situation. Wasn't a cop. He was a security person or whatever that was. And I think both people could have handled that differently. George Zimmerman. Both should have handled that differently. But jury found George Zimmerman not guilty of homicide. And I believe there was a black person on the jury, or there was a black alternate, I forget which one. Either way, that person said that I would have found him not guilty as well. That's all you got? These are case by case. Case by case. It is rare for the police to shoot and kill anybody. 1,000 people killed by the police last year, 1,000, out of a population of 350 million. Out of 50 million police interactions with civilians, 11 million arrests, 60,000 officers assaulted, 50 or 60 killed. Out of all of that, 1,000 civilians killed by the police. And out of that 1,500 of them are white. 250 of them are black. Twice as many whites killed than blacks. As many, if not more, in most years, unarmed whites killed compared to unarmed blacks. Name an unarmed white. Probably can't. Are there bad cops? Absolutely, 1%. Bad lawyers, bad judges, bad doctors. Hopefully not 1% bad airline pilots, but you know where I'm going. Nirvana, these are human beings. I suggest you read the article, and then read the article in July in the New York Times about Roland Fryer. He said the findings were the most shocking of his career because he felt like you, intuitively. Because the media runs like the devil when somebody like George Floyd is killed, or when somebody like Jacob Blake is shot. They love this. Racism. It advances that narrative. You're being manipulated, and you don't even realize it. And you're mad, and I'm the bad guy. That's how successful they are. I'm giving you the facts, and I'm the bad guy. Malcolm X once said, I'm for the truth no matter who's telling it. So I know you don't like me because I'm a black conservative, but are 2 + 2 4? Even if a black conservative says it? And I'm the bad guy? I'm trying to make things better. The police pull back. It's called the Ferguson effect. Bad guys know it. Crime goes up. And because of this perception that the police are going to engage in violent behavior, young black men are unduly confrontational, and it makes something that would have been a minor thing escalate into something bigger. And I'm trying to tell you to calm down. And I'm the bad guy? You know, you got people like Hillary. Oh, Donald Trump's being impeached a second time, but it won't change white supremacy. She's manipulating you. She's playing on your emotions. She's treating you like a chump because she wants your vote. And she knows all she has to do is jangle a key in front of you called racism, and you go crazy. You know how many black police chiefs we have now? Black police officers? And the New York Police Department, the department's ethnicity mirrors the city, as does Los Angeles. We've had back-to-back black police chiefs. Didn't matter. During the O.J. Simpson case, people that hate the police still said that they fabricated evidence, even though he did a full review, put out a department study, as I said yesterday. Nobody did anything wrong. And the people that wanted to call the LAPD racist didn't matter. They still call the LAPD racist. What does that tell you? Next time, call live, okay? We can have a real discussion. Now, 49% of Americans say their top New Year's resolution is to save money in the next year. Well, let's check that box right now. When your family switches over to Pure Talk from AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, you could save over $800 a year. That's real money every single month right back in your pocket. And you don't have to sacrifice coverage. Pure Talk is on the same network as one of those big carriers, but they charge you half. Look, I'm a customer, and I can personally tell you that the service is excellent. But don't just take my word for it. Pure Talk is a top-rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs. And how about this offer? Right now, get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data, all for just $30 a month. And if you go over data usage, they do not charge you for it. So grab your mobile phone, dial pound 250, say Larry Elder. When you do, you're going to save 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250, say keyword Larry Elder. Pure Talk is simply smarter wireless.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I was watching a certain congressman, who I won't name, a former congressman, who 5 or 6 times on television right now, he just said, I'm so surprised to see this. I'm so stunned to see this. You can be saddened to see it, like I am. But if you're surprised that you're seeing this, then you have done an awful job governing and legislating. This should not be a surprise to anyone that actually understands what is happening in this country. And this is beyond politics at this moment. This is beyond Republican and Democrat. This is a multi-institutional problem that is happening in America. So I want to get into this as we lead. We're waiting for the President of the Senate, the Vice President, to reconvene the session. As we promised you, we're going to be covering this live tonight, and we covered it all throughout the day. What drove those people to scale the walls of Congress today, of which I don't support? But why did they do that? The sloppy and the lazy analysis that is being given is because President Trump told them to do that. That's wrong. That's not true. First of all, he didn't tell them to do that. But that's a simpleton argument. They did that because they don't trust their system. That's why. I just heard Jonathan Turley on Fox News, who I think is a very smart guy, and he said, how could these people not trust their system? What's gotten into them? What's gotten into them? They watch the news.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I mean, there's a lot of Republicans, oh, okay, thank you, CNN, rush to CNN. You shouldn't give CNN the time of day. Why? Anybody you see on CNN?
So, Larry, let me understand this. You want us to believe that all the millions of black men that have experienced personally the racism by black and white officers, you want us to believe that all of them are lying because the statistics show something different? So I guess, George Floyd should have just not resisted arrest, and James Blake should have not reached in his car, and Trayvon Martin should have just answered the question of a random white man that accosted him on the streets. And I know Emmett Till, he should have just never looked at the white woman. So I understand, Larry, that makes perfect sense from someone that's in the Klan.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. I wanted to play it a second time because I didn't address the comment it made about Emmett Till, which is probably the most ignorant thing the man said. Do you know who Emmett Till was? He was a boy from Chicago. He was visiting relatives in Mississippi. And he either whistled at a white woman or bragged that he could say something to a white woman. It is still unclear exactly what happened, but he said something to a white woman, and the white woman's husband, and I think it's her brother, 2 people, tracked him down. I can't even describe what they did to him. Beat him, tortured him, threw him in the river. Justice was not done. Some people believe that it was the case that sparked the modern civil rights movement because the boy's mom refused to have a closed casket. She wanted the world to see what they did to my boy. You want to compare that to an individual who resisted arrest? How ignorant is that? I mean, it's almost a pathological call. I've never said people that felt they were mistreated by cops were lying. Never said that. Never said that we should ignore racism. Never said it didn't exist. Never. I say again, it is not big enough, strong enough to stop anybody in America in 2021 unless he or she wants it to. Years ago, a white editor of the National Review, conservative magazine, said, white racism exists, but its social power is weak. The social power arrayed against it, overwhelming. I am Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
You can concentrate, and should, on the terrible events of yesterday. But if that's all you think about, you will do the country no service. This country is completely divided. Something I've said we've been in a civil war. And I said for so long, we're in a civil war and only one side is fighting. For the last 4 years, Republicans have fought. Among the other consequences of yesterday's mob, and it was a mob in the Capitol, is the way in which, at least for the time being, history has a time of leveling things. The Donald Trump legacy has been smeared truly beyond recognition. I don't know whether the results, I have had the same position the entire time. I use the word agnostic. I don't know. The circumstantial evidence of cheating and the 100% moral defense of cheating that would accompany almost anyone on the left, and would have to. I will make the argument once again. If you believe that one of the two candidates is a fascist, is a dictator, is a white supremacist racist, why would you not cheat if you could to prevent that person from being president? I would.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Governor, you were the first of the major Republican contenders in 2016 to endorse the president. Do you regret that decision?
I do not, Hugh. I do not, because I knew when I dropped out of that race and then after the South Carolina primary that none of the other people on that stage were going to beat Donald Trump. He was going to be the Republican nominee, and I was completely committed, in fact, in some ways desperate, to make sure that Hillary Clinton was not the next president of the United States. And when you look at the tax cuts, the regulation cuts, most importantly, the judicial nominees, the problem is that the president's behavior at times has obscured his accomplishments.
Oh, I agree. The JCPOA and the Abraham Accords, there's a great list. Will that now always have appended to it, as Nixon has resignation appended to him, the riot and insurrection of Wednesday?
Of course it will. That was a scene and a set of actions that really, I think, shook the American people. And those images, I don't think will ever leave anyone who was watching them. Well, I don't believe the president intended for what happened to happen. But I think, as has happened for all of the 8 weeks used since the election, the president put first and foremost his perception that this election was stolen from him and his personal grievances were put first, and he used them on Wednesday to fire up that crowd.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
So now me at 27, I can now play historian. So let me tell you what's about to happen, okay?
Sure.
When Democrats have unified government, they're going to reach too big, and they're going to fail with a lot of it. We now have to pinpoint, though, what fights matter most. Number one, the continuation of the Electoral College. Number two, no more seats on the Supreme Court. Number three, no new states. Number three is the one that we really got to look out for. So if we're smart, we should go ask Joe Manchin right now on the record, do you support adding new states to the union? I have a whole very provocative argument that I think that Joe Manchin should run for Senate Majority Leader and all the Republicans should support him, therefore not allowing Chuck Schumer becoming Senate Majority Leader. So I'm going to come out with that publicly today. I guess I'm breaking it exclusively, Eric. I did come up with the idea, but it's actually so patently obvious. But then here's the other thing that's going to happen, Eric, is that we're going to start to get it's going to get worse before it gets better. They're going to crack down on us like never before. There's going to be a lot of indictments, investigations, deplatforming, censoring, loss of hope. And then things will, then we're going to have to rally and we're going to have to find some momentum. But for anyone who now says, well, the country is over, it's lost, then go to Paris. Okay. I have no time for you right now. Okay. I'm going to fight for every single inch of this country. And if you're all of a sudden going to be these people that there's a direct connection of the people that were dealing in Hopi, like, give me the hopium. And now the people that want nothing to do with it. It's over. It's done. Fine. Yeah. Go to Brussels. Okay. I want nothing to do with that. We got to fight.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We only deal in the facts, and Katie Pavlich has given them to us. Yes, there were thousands of peaceful Trump supporters that marched to Capitol Hill and that surrounded the building. There were others that broke the law and that gained entry to that building and did damage to that building. But some of the people who were there, disguised as Trump supporters, were in fact BLM and Antifa. Will we ever get to the bottom of what really happened? We are 12 days away from Biden taking over in his installation of Merrick Garland as the Attorney General of the United States. So no, don't hold your breath for some official judicial conclusion or even a prosecution of these individuals, because that's not in their interests. BLM is peaceful. Didn't you know that? Antifa doesn't exist. It's just an idea. But as long as we have great people like Katie Pavlich and my colleagues at Town Hall and at Salem, we will give you the truth. Because that's why we exist. That's why we are here. That's why this radio show broadcasts to you every day of the week for 3 hours. Now more than ever, it's crucial that you share this information, that you propagate the knowledge you receive from this show.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. We're talking about this historic day when President Trump has now been impeached for the second time, the only president in history to be impeached twice. And I'm watching these Democrats speak. They gave them about a minute to speak. Maxine Waters gets up and she speaks. The woman who told people to, if they see a Trump cabinet member in public, form a crowd, let them know they're not welcome anywhere anymore. She talks about how Trump is guilty of incitement to violence, incitement to insurrection. This is a woman. If you're hearing this for the first time, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. This is a woman who wrote a letter to Fidel Castro urging him not to send back a woman who was and still is in New Jersey's top 10 most wanted list. Her name is Joanne Chesimard. She's changed her name to Asante Shakur. Was convicted of murdering a New Jersey trooper, escaped, fled to Cuba, and is there as we speak. Congress passed a resolution several years ago telling Fidel Castro to send her back. Maxine Waters writes Castro a letter, calls her a freedom fighter, and essentially says she is a woman unjustly convicted in the States, a political prisoner, urged him not to send her back. Who does that? First time you're hearing this? For several years, a left-leaning good government group has called Maxine Waters one of the most corrupt politicians in Washington. Hearing this for the first time? Fine Trump cabinet members, when you see them in public, surround them, form a crowd, let them know they're not welcome anywhere anymore. What is that? And watching these Democrats, I was reminded of something that Chris Matthews once said. Chris Matthews is the lefty that used to have a show on MSNBC Hee Haw.
Here's a party that I just keep keeping the list. They want more people to fry. They love executions.
They love more people to fry. They love executions. You mean Republicans are more likely to be in favor of the death penalty than Democrats?
They want people that don't have insurance to die on the gurney in the.
They want people who don't have insurance to die on the gurney in the hospital. Did anybody raise his hand on that one?
Hospital bed. They want that to happen. Right. They want forget about illegal aliens.
So I guess back to the thing, die on gurneys. I guess because you don't want universal health coverage, that's equivalent to wanting people to die on gurneys. Forget about illegal immigration, meaning we are opposed to illegal immigration. Okay. Do you recall some of the things that your party used to say about illegal immigration?
Those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers.
We have to listen to the concerns that working people, our forgotten working people, have over the record pace of immigration and its impact on their jobs, wages, housing, schools, tax bills, and general living conditions. These are valid concerns expressed by decent and patriotic citizens from all backgrounds, all over.
If making it easy to be an illegal alien isn't enough, how about offering a reward for being an illegal immigrant? No sane country would do that, right?
In approaching immigration reform, I believe we must enact tough, practical reforms that ensure and promote the legal and orderly entry of immigrants into our country.
We will turn off the jobs and benefits magnet. We will ensure that E-Verify is used to the fullest extent possible under existing law, and we will work with Congress to strengthen and expand its use across the country.
We all agree on the need to better secure the border and to punish employers who choose to hire illegal immigrants.
That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before.
Zero tolerance for criminal aliens. Zero. Moving forward, we will issue detainers for illegal immigrants who are arrested for any crime whatsoever, and they will be placed into immediate removal proceedings.
We will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan.
I continue to believe that we need stronger enforcement on the border and at the workplace. And that means a workable, mandatory system that employers must use to verify the legality of their workers.
If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship and guarantee of full access to all public and social services this society provides. And that's a lot of services. Is it any wonder that 2/3 of the babies born at taxpayer expense at county-run hospitals in Los Angeles are born to illegal alien mothers?
So, that's why we need to start by giving agencies charged with border security new technology, new facilities, and more people to stop, process, and deport illegal immigrants.
By cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens.
Our enforcement priorities will include removing criminals, gang members, security threats, visa overstays, public charges, that is, those relying on public welfare or straining the safety net, along with millions of recent illegal arrivals.
Right now, we've got millions of illegal immigrants who live and work here without knowing their identity or background.
But we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop.
We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
Gay soldiers, forget about them. They're there to be booed. If you're homeless, foreclose on. If you have a home, foreclose on the people. If you're a teacher, a fireman, or a cop, get rid of the guy.
This sounded to me like what I heard today, hearing these Democrats malign President Trump.
I mean, this attitude of causing cruel pain on people and getting cheers for it. What's that about, Howard?
As I said, 61% of Democrats believe that Republicans are racist, sexist, bigoted. Over 80% believe that Donald Trump is a racist. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show. Trending now on America Trending now. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Then, if you go to Sullivan's Twitter feed,
You know what? I saw Ron DeSantis say something the other day that really got to me. He said the highlight of my life, of my job, of my existence is to have people come up to me now and with tears in their eyes and say, thank you, Governor DeSantis. Thanks to you, my family still has an income. I still have a job. Thanks to you, I've been able to survive this horrific year. You should see New York. Oh, my goodness. It's terrible what New Yorkers have experienced and are continuing to experience. And believe me, look at the comparisons of New York and Florida. It's very apt. So here's Governor DeSantis at that press conference where a CNN reporter was strutting around like a peacock trying to embarrass him and talk over him. And he completely bested her with this exchange.
What has gone wrong with the rollout of the vaccine that we've seen phone lines jammed, websites crash?
There's a lot of demand. I mean, I think at the end of the day, excuse me.
If I could finish my question.
You just said what has gone wrong, so I'm answering the question.
If I could complete the question, though.
So you're going to give a speech or you're going to ask a question?
We've seen websites crash and also senior citizens waiting overnight for the vaccine.
Where was that at?
We've seen it in Duval, Broward, Orange, and Lee.
Why was there a big line? Did you investigate why?
Could you tell us why?
Because we distributed vaccine to hospitals, and the hospital said, first come, first serve. If you show up, we'll do it.
See, I mean, these CNN clowns aren't interested in any kind of answers. She doesn't care about a response. She wants to posture and behave more like an activist than a reporter.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
You can concentrate, and should, on the terrible events of yesterday. But if that's all you think about, you will do the country no service. This country is completely divided. Something I've said we've been in a civil war. And I said for so long, we're in a civil war and only one side is fighting. For the last 4 years, Republicans have fought. Among
I used to be a Republican, but no more.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. I'm going to address that in just a second. Now, are you looking for some entertainment that'll lift you up and leave you inspired? I want to encourage you to go to SalemNow.com and watch Poor, the CEO, The Incredible Journey of Herman Cain. Herman was beloved by all, and his rise from humble beginnings to CEO of Godfather's Pizza is an inspiring story. Add to that a presidential run in 2012, a victorious battle over cancer, a flourishing career in Atlanta radio. Herman was an amazing man whose life embodied the values we strive to live and pass along to our kids and grandkids. Belief in God, the power of personal responsibility, hard work, a good education, living each day with a thankful heart. Poor to CEO is one of the most inspirational, entertaining films I've watched in a long time. And you can watch it right now at SalemNow.com. That's SalemNow.com. Use promo code Larry and save 20%. Watch Poor to CEO, the Herman Cain story at SalemNow.com. When I hear people talk about, well, because of what this Republican said or did, or this person didn't back Trump, I'm not going to become a Republican. I no longer... Republican Party stands for principles. It's never been about an individual. As much as I love Ronald Reagan, after he was gone, the party still survived. Do you want taxes to be higher? Do you want government to be bigger? Do you want to continue the march towards single payer? Do you want the borders to remain porous? Do you care about whether or not urban kids get a quality education And therefore, do you want them to be able to opt out of a underperforming government school? Do you want judges on the Supreme Court that understand the Constitution is a contract between government and citizen that ties the hands of government, as opposed to a suggestion box, a living, breathing document that can be interpreted depending upon the political whims of the day? Do you want a tough foreign policy, or do you have the attitude of strength through peace, as opposed to peace through strength, which was the approach of Ronald Reagan and typically the Republican approach in the last several decades? Believe it or not, at one time on foreign policy, there was very little difference between the two Democrats and Republicans. I urge you to go back and look at the debate between Nixon and Kennedy. They're all on YouTube. They're very boring. And they're boring because the differences between the two parties, these two politicians anyway, were minor. Had some differences about how to dispose of Japanese islands. And there was a difference over how big Russia was, how many nuclear missiles Russia had. But they were both Cold War warriors. They were both World War II vets. Kennedy was 100, believed in the Second Amendment. Very likely was anti-abortion, although abortion was not an issue then, because the issue was done in the states, where it ought to be. Do you want more government regulation? Are you a climate change alarmist? Do you want to force feed a fossil fuel-based economy into one that's based upon so-called renewables, even though they're not practical, not cost-effective? If those are your views, limited government, personal responsibility, secure borders, strong national defense, a Supreme Court, and district and appellate judges that respect the Constitution. You know, Thurgood Marshall was the NAACP lawyer who prosecuted the Brown versus Board of Education case that overturned separate but equal. He was a masterful lawyer. First black justice of the Supreme Court, appointed by Lyndon Johnson. He once said, I don't pay attention to the law. I just do what's right, and I wait until the law catches up. Are you kidding me? I remember we were in law school, and this came up. And the professor, who's normally, in my opinion, one of those who believes very strongly that the Constitution is a contract, not a living, breathing document, said very little about what Thurgood Marshall said. I believe because Thurgood Marshall is black, he didn't want to criticize him. But think about that. I just do what's right and wait for the law to catch up. That's hideous. That's essentially what they think. That's how they feel. Well, eventually the legislature will get around to overturning the statute, so I'll just do it. Gavin Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco when he violated state law by allowing marriage licenses for same-sex couples. Now, however you feel about that is not the point. The point is he completely ignored the law. He figured sooner or later the legislature would catch up. That's not your job. That is a very different point of view, very different worldview. The way Ruth Bader Ginsburg sees the Constitution, or saw the Constitution, the way Kagan sees it, the way Sotomayor sees it, is very different than the way Scalia saw it, the way Clarence Thomas sees it, and hopefully the way the justices that Trump put on the Supreme Court see it. So, however frustrated you are about this, that, or the other, what are your principles? Now, I told you about the customer who came into my friend's shop and said all these horrible things about Donald Trump, and then my friend began to rattle off all these facts. He didn't care. Reminds me of my conversation I had with Tavis Smiley.
Here's what I find puzzling, Tavis, about your analysis. I know you're not a fan of Ronald Reagan. You once said that Ronald Reagan, quote, tortured blacks, end of quote. Ronald Reagan did not have a specific black jobs agenda. What he did was cut taxes very deeply. He slowed down the rate of government spending, and he continued and accelerated deregulation policies that had been started by Jimmy Carter. The black adult unemployment rate fell faster than the white adult unemployment rate. The black teenage unemployment rate fell far faster than did the white teenage unemployment rate. Black businesses were created at a rate faster. The revenues grew at a rate faster, all because Ronald Reagan dramatically cut taxes, dramatically reduced the rate of government of domestic spending, and he deregulated. This president is doing the opposite. He has spent money. He has taxed. He's threatening to increase taxes even more. He's imposed billions of dollars in regulations. And fast forward 2.5 years later, we got 9.1% unemployment. And during the Reagan era, Tavis, unemployment, in fact, was even higher than the highest during this Great Recession. So I don't understand why it is that you don't say the agenda ought to be what Ronald Reagan did.
I will have Mr. Smiley's response for you when we come back. Bottom line is, he didn't believe anything I said. Am I making it up? Black unemployment didn't fall faster than did white unemployment. I'm making this up. Black business revenues did not grow at a rate faster than white business revenues. I'm making it up. Triple 971 SAGE. I am Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
You can concentrate, and should, on the terrible events of yesterday. But if that's all you think about, you will do the country no service. This country is completely divided. Something I've said we've been in a civil war. And I said for so long, we're in a civil war and only one side is fighting. For the last 4 years, Republicans have fought. Among the other consequences of yesterday's mob, and it was a mob in the Capitol, is the way in which, at least for the time being, history has a time of leveling things. The Donald Trump legacy has been smeared truly beyond recognition. I don't know whether the results, I have had the same position the entire time. I use the word agnostic. I don't know. The circumstantial evidence of cheating and the 100% moral defense of cheating that would accompany almost anyone on the left, and would have to. I will make the argument once again. If you believe that one of the two candidates is a fascist, is a dictator, is a white supremacist racist, why would you not cheat if you could to prevent that person from being president? I would.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Governor, you were the first of the major Republican contenders in 2016 to endorse the president. Do you regret that decision?
I do not, Hugh. I do not, because I knew when I dropped out of that race and then after the South Carolina primary that none of the other people on that stage were going to beat Donald Trump. He was going to be the Republican nominee, and I was completely committed. In fact, in some ways desperate, to make sure that Hillary Clinton was not the next president of the United States. And when you look at the tax cuts, the regulation cuts, most importantly, the judicial nominees, the problem is that the president's behavior at times has obscured his accomplishments.
Oh, I agree. The JCPOA and the Abraham Accords, there's a great list. Will that now always have appended to it, as Nixon has resignation appended to him, the riot and insurrection of Wednesday?
Of course it will. That was a scene and a set of actions that really, I think, shook the American people. And those images, I don't think will ever leave anyone who was watching them. Well, I don't believe the president intended for what happened to happen. But I think, as has happened for all of the 8 weeks used since the election, the president put first and foremost his perception that this election was stolen from him, and his personal grievances were put first, and he used them on Wednesday to fire up that crowd.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
So now me at 27, I can now play historian. So let me tell you what's about to happen, okay?
Sure.
When Democrats have unified government, they're going to reach too big, and they're going to fail with a lot of it. We now have to pinpoint, though, what fights matter most. Number one,
the short answer is this. You're awfully good at this. That's why you've been doing it for 17 years. Nice try, with respect. But Ronald Reagan decimated this country. I don't know what America you were living in, respectfully, during the Reagan. He decimated America economically, in every way.
In what way? Give me one way. Give me one way.
The one thing that Ronald Reagan did for people of color was to support the Earned Income Tax Credit. But every other stat you cited, we don't have time on radio to go number for number, but every stat you cited vis-a-vis people of color does not measure up when you talk to the people of color who had to live through the hell of those 8 years of Ronald Reagan.
Wait, what do you mean talk to the people? I've just given you labor stats, census stats. These are facts,
Larry.
Tavis.
And when I get
unemployment
back,
fell faster in the black community than in the white community. It fell faster for teens. It fell faster for adults. It fell faster for Hispanics.
It's not true.
And
Larry.
you're telling me when you talk to people,
not true.
They don't like Reagan, so therefore
Larry,
the stats go out of the window?
Larry, your numbers are not true. When I get back to my office later today or tomorrow, I'll send you some more numbers. You know this. Numbers don't lie, but people do. The numbers are very clear.
You're not calling me a liar.
No, I'm saying numbers don't lie. People do.
You want to take it outside?
No, I'm saying the people who provided you those numbers put a spin on those.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. That was how many years ago? I mean, I know the mail is slow, but damn. You can't get that stuff to me by now? You put it in a bottle, throw it in the Pacific Ocean, and hope it got to me? Did you at least put a stamp on it? Was that before email? I think it was before the Pony Express. So I understand now. I think it was before the Gutenberg press. He had to go out and just... All right, so 10 Republicans have joined the Democrats in impeaching President Trump for the second time. 10 Republicans have joined the Democrats to impeach Trump the second time. No Republicans joined the Democrats the first time. Liz Cheney, Fred Upton, Michigan, Tom Rice, South Carolina, Anthony Gonzalez, Ohio, Jaime Herrera, Butler, Washington, John Cato, New York, Adam Kinzinger, Illinois, Peter Maher, Michigan, Dan Newhouse, Washington, and David Valadao, California. Those are the Republicans who joined the Democrats in voting to impeach Donald Trump the second time. As a result, the hosts and pundits on CNN and MSNBC are referring to this impeachment as bipartisan. Just 10. Jim Jordan today.
Thank the gentleman for yielding, Mr. Speaker. In his opening remarks, the Democrat chair of the Rules Committee said that Republicans last week voted to overturn the results of an election. Guess who the first objector was on January 6, 2017? First objector, the Democrat chair of the Rules Committee. And guess which state he objected to? Alabama. The very first state called, Alabama. President Trump, I think, won Alabama by like 80 points. Actually, he won it by 30 points. They can object to Alabama in 2017, but tell us we can't object to Pennsylvania in 2021? Pennsylvania, where the state Supreme Court just unilaterally extended the election to Friday? Pennsylvania, where the Secretary of State unilaterally changed the rules, went around the legislature in unconstitutional fashion? Pennsylvania, where county clerks in some counties, and you can imagine which counties they were, let people fix their ballots against the law, cure their ballots, their mail-in ballots, direct violation of the law. And they tell us we tried to overturn the election. Guess who the second objector was in 2017? The individual managing the impeachment for the Democrats. Americans are tired of the double standard. They are so tired of it. Democrats object to more states in 2017 than Republicans did last week, but somehow we're wrong. Democrats can raise bail for rioters and looters this summer, but somehow when Republicans condemn all the violence this summer, the violence last week, somehow we're wrong. And Democrats can investigate the President of the United States, as Mr. Hoyer went through, try to impeach him, investigate him for 4 years, but will not look at an election that 80 million Americans, half the electorate, 80 million, Republicans and Democrats have their doubts about. I said this last night. I do not know where all this goes. And this is frightening for the country.
He also read a statement from President Trump.
Madam Speaker, statement from the President. I urge that there must be no violence, no lawbreaking, no vandalism of any kind. This is not what I stand for. It is not what America stands for. I call on all Americans to help ease tensions and calm down. Just put out that statement by the President of the United States.
Now, how many years have I been telling you about Relief Factor? Some say there might be 100 million folks struggling with some kind of pain, whether from exercise or just getting older. That sound like you? Do you have back pain, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise? If so, try the 3-week Quick Start, discounted to only $19.95. The doctors who formulated it selected the 4 best ingredients, 100% drug-free, each of which deals with pain on a different metabolic pathway. So, give your body what it needs to heal itself. Try Relief Factor. After that, less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day to stay out of pain. ReliefFactor.com. ReliefFactor.com. 800-500-8384. 800-500-8384.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
You know what? I saw Ron DeSantis say something the other day that really got to me. He said the highlight of my life, of my job, of my existence is to have people come up to me now and with tears in their eyes and say, thank you, Governor DeSantis. Thanks to you, my family still has an income. I still have a job. Thanks to you, I've been able to survive this horrific year. You should see New York. Oh, my goodness. It's terrible what New Yorkers have experienced and are continuing to experience. And believe me, look at the comparisons of New York and Florida. It's very apt. So here's Governor DeSantis at that press conference where a CNN reporter was strutting around like a peacock trying to embarrass him and talk over him. And he completely bested her with this exchange.
What has gone wrong with the rollout of the vaccine that we've seen phone lines jammed, websites crashing?
It's a lot of demand. I mean, I think at the end of the day, excuse me.
If I could finish my question.
You just said what has gone wrong, so I'm answering the question.
If I could complete the question, though.
So you're going to give a speech or you're going to ask a question?
We've seen websites crash and also senior citizens waiting overnight for the vaccine.
Where was that at?
We've seen it in Duval, Broward, Orange, and Lee.
Why was there a big line? Did you investigate why?
Could you tell us why?
Because we distributed vaccine to hospitals, and the hospital said, first come, first serve. If you show up, we'll do it.
See, I mean, these CNN clowns aren't interested in any kind of answers. She doesn't care about a response. She wants to posture and behave more like an activist than a reporter.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
You can concentrate, and should, on the terrible events of yesterday. But if that's all you think about, you will do the country no service. This country is completely divided. Something I've said we've been in a civil war. And I said for so long, we're in a civil war and only one side is fighting. For the last 4 years, Republicans have fought. Among the other consequences of yesterday's mob, and it was a mob in the Capitol, is the way in which, at least for the time being, history has a time of leveling things. The Donald Trump legacy has been smeared truly beyond recognition.
Larry, it's incredible. For 6 months, they couldn't get a coronavirus bill done, but Congress managed somehow to get back to Congress in record time to vote on the president's impeachment.
The words peaceful and patriotic must be dog whistles, because that's what that dog, Nancy Pelosi, and her rabid pack of followers obviously heard.
We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Maryland seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of H-Res 21 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 21, resolution calling on Vice President Michael R. Pence to convene and mobilize the principal officers of the executive departments of the Cabinet to activate Section 4 of the 25th Amendment to declare President Donald J. Trump incapable of executing the duties of his office and to immediately exercise powers as acting president.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Consider the position of Vice President Mike Pence. The Democrats wanted him to invoke the 25th Amendment to argue that President Trump is mentally unfit to hold the office. Republicans wanted him to join the Texas lawsuit to give him the power to ignore the electors, and he refused to join that. Now, there were, as I mentioned, 10 Republicans who joined the Democrats to impeach President Trump for the second time. One of them was Liz Cheney. I think we should put an asterisk next to her name. I'll tell you why. Lynn Cheney's father, of course, was Dick Cheney, the vice president to George W. Bush. Dick Cheney was a staunch proponent of the Iraq War. I don't know whether he was a more aggressive supporter of the war than was George W. Bush, but Dick Cheney was certainly an aggressive supporter of the Iraq War. Donald Trump publicly said that the Bush-Cheney administration, quote, lied us into that war, end of quote. You might recall that I campaigned with Donald Trump in 2016, and one of the privileges was you got a little bit of one-on-one time with him. He was candidate Trump then, of course. We had about 10 minutes together. And I said, there's one thing I believe you should apologize for. He goes, I know what you're going to say, what I said about John McCain. I said, no, couldn't care less. I said, you said that George W. Bush lied us into the Iraq War. I said there was a commission set up to examine this, bipartisan. They looked into this. And they concluded that the intelligence was, quote, dead wrong, close quote, their term. But that nobody lied. And think about it. Bush had the same CIA director. George Tenet had served under Bill Clinton. He told Bill Clinton that the prospect of Saddam Hussein having stockpiles was obvious. He told George W. Bush the same thing. He used the term slam dunk. And I told him that to say that you oppose the war is one thing, but to say that George W. Bush lied us into the war, I said, that's what the Democrats say. It was the most important decision of George W. Bush's presidency, and it is the decision that probably has caused the darkest stain on the Republican brand. And you're making it worse by saying, okay, it's one thing to say that you oppose the war. It's another thing to say you opposed a war that the president and commander-in-chief lied us into. And that's what you've done. And he went, well, he didn't say very much of anything. He didn't say, you're right, Larry. All I know is, to my knowledge, he's never said it again. And so it is my belief that Donald Trump, who's reluctant to apologize for anything, his way of apologizing really is not to say the same wrong-headed thing twice. Tom Cole, a Republican from Oklahoma.
Follow the same process we have used in every modern impeachment rather than rushing to the floor. On behalf of generations of Americans to come, we need to think more clearly about the consequences of our actions today. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, there is no reason to rush forward like this, other than the very obvious fact that there are only 7 days left until a new president takes office. But what's worse, as Professor Dershowitz has pointed out, because of the Senate's rules, the case cannot come to trial in the Senate until 1 p.m. on January the 20th, 1 hour after President Trump leaves office. This is an ill-advised course, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker. Even Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat, agrees. Senator Manchin is quoted this week as having said, quote, I think this is so ill-advised for Joe Biden to be coming in, trying to heal the country, trying to be the president of all the people when we're going to be so divided and fighting again.
By the way, yesterday I said that Joe Biden, if he really wanted to heal the country as he claims he does, he would have picked the phone and called Nancy Pelosi and said, stand down, knock it off. Do you recall that after President Trump got elected, he said he was not going to pursue charges against Hillary, even though he said the opposite during the campaign? And he said, we need to heal. We need to spend our time more productively. Tom McClintock, Republican from California.
But what did he actually say? His exact words were, quote, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard, unquote. That's impeachable? That's called freedom of speech. Now, he also threatened to oppose candidates in future elections. And by the way, that was directed at Republicans like me who'd resolved to uphold the constitutional process and protect the Electoral College. Well, so what? That's called politics. If we impeached every politician who gave a fiery speech to a crowd of partisans, this Capitol would be deserted. That's what the president did. That is all he did. He specifically told the crowd to protest peacefully and patriotically. And the vast majority of them did.
Did you hear my show yesterday?
But every movement has a lunatic fringe. Suppressing free speech is not the answer. Holding rioters accountable for their actions is the answer.
All they had to do was just play my show. They'd have been done. Now, I've been telling you for years about Relief Factor. There might be 100 million folks struggling with some level of pain, whether from exercise or just getting older. If that sounds like you, if you're struggling with back, neck, shoulder, hip, or knee pain, whether from general muscle aches and pain or just getting older, try the 3-week Quick Start, discounted to only $19.95. There are 4 drug-free ingredients in Relief Factor, each of which deals with pain on a different metabolic pathway. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
This notion of, you're crazy if you believe anything went awry when, according to Congressman, a North Carolina congressman. Yes, here we go. Dan Bishop. There were 385 pre-election lawsuits to change election laws. Even if the counting were honest, do you know how much cheating went on by changing the laws? And over the course of time, dropping election day as election day to election month, and the sending out of ballots, and what's the word that they have for bundling? Is that the word? Bundle? What is the word? Harvest, yeah. Half this country doesn't believe in any of its institutions, and they're right. I'm in that half. If you send your child to any school that teaches the 1619 Project, you have made the choice to have your child lied to about your country. 100% lie. So my heart breaks for you because you have other things to do in life other than to also be your children's teachers, or at least to organize their teaching, as in homeschooling. Maybe you could find a good school that actually teaches truth and not a left-wing school. Maybe, and if that would be the best.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Then
I love your show. These people that are constantly calling you liars, they're the same people that refuse to listen to anything anybody has to say. I don't care how many facts you have. I have gone on Facebook and argued with so many people and actually showed them videos of absolute proof, and they refuse to watch. I don't need to watch that because it's a lie. No, man, that's just the way these people are, and you will never convince them of that. Great job. Keep doing what you're doing.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Next hour, former President Obama accused President Trump of inciting violence at the Capitol. Says that his presidency has ended in a crescendo of violence. Do you recall what the police used to say about President Obama and how, in their view, he incited hatred of cops? A hatred that resulted in 10 cops being killed execution style during Obama's second term. We're going to talk about that top of the hour. Also, Amazon said it repeatedly warned Parler about its violent content, and the Parler CEO says that they may not return at all. They're talking with other providers. They won't say who they are for obvious reasons. We'll be getting into that as well. And we continue with the second impeachment of President Trump. 888-971-SAGE. Hayes is in Dallas, Texas. Hayes, always nice to hear from you.
Hey, Larry, why don't we talk about Obama's last 3 years as opposed to Trump's, when you are talking about how good a president that this guy has been? Who created the most jobs?
Would you like me to respond to your question?
3 years.
Would you like me to respond to your question?
Yes.
The reason I use Reagan and Obama is because they inherited similar economic conditions. Reagan saw unemployment at. Okay.
Your guy did not.
Okay. You're not listening, Hayes. So I'll just continue without you. In the recession that Reagan dealt with, unemployment got to 10.5, 10.8. Obama 10.0. Inflation 13.5% during the recession that Ronald Reagan had to deal with. Inflation was negligible during the recession that Obama had to deal with. Recovery Obama had to deal with. Interest rates negligible. I don't think they've ever been this low, have they? For a prime, 20.5% during the recession that Reagan dealt with. So their conditions were similar. That's why I compare those two presidencies, Hayes. They refer to the recession that Obama dealt with as the Great Recession. But as I said, unemployment was worse, inflation was worse,
Interest rates were worse during the recession that Reagan had to deal with. But nobody calls that the Great Recession. You know why? Because Reagan did the opposite of what Obama did. As I told Tavis Smiley, he cut taxes, slowed down the rate of domestic spending, and continued deregulation. Obama did the opposite, raised taxes, increased regulations, increased government spending. As a result, we had the worst economic recovery since 1949. Is this thing on, Hayes? Was I speaking too quickly, Hayes? You want me to do it in Spanish? I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I was watching a certain congressman, who I won't name, a former congressman, who 5 or 6 times on television right now, he just said, "I'm so surprised to see this. I'm so stunned to see this." You can be saddened to see it, like I am. But if you're surprised that you're seeing this, then you have done an awful job governing and legislating. This should not be a surprise to anyone that actually understands what is happening in this country. And this is beyond politics at this moment. This is beyond Republican and Democrat. This is a multi-institutional problem that is happening in America. So I want to get into this as we lead. We're waiting for the President of the Senate, the Vice President, to reconvene the session. As we promised you, we're going to be covering this live tonight, and we covered it all throughout the day. What drove those people to scale the walls of Congress today, of which I don't support? But why did they do that? The sloppy and the lazy analysis that is being given is because President Trump told them to do that. That's wrong. That's not true. First of all, he didn't tell them to do that. But that's a simpleton argument. They did that because they don't trust their system. That's why. I just heard Jonathan Turley on Fox News, who I think is a very smart guy, and he said, how could these people not trust their system? What's gotten into them? What's gotten into them? They watch the news.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I mean, there's a lot of Republicans, oh, okay, thank you, CNN, rush to CNN. You shouldn't give CNN the time of day. Why? Anybody you see on CNN or any of these anti-Republican, anti-conservative outlets, that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. If you're cozying up to the media elites, you are telling the world who you really are. Again, I love this comment I saw on social media last night. It gave me a little bit of hope after a despondent evening. Fun fact, the ruling elite are terrified of an angry general populace. Listen, they despise people like Ron DeSantis because he stands up to jerks like that lady.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The American experiment is founded upon a presupposition, a prior commitment to an ordered liberty, an established order. That means policies. It means a covenant. In our case, it means a constitution. As of right now, the U.S. Constitution is the longest surviving written constitution in human history. It's a remarkable document. All of that came to the fore in violent events that interrupted the joint session of Congress to count the votes of the Electoral College. At the end of the day, our constitutional order proved itself once again resilient. But that doesn't take away any of the tragedy and the horror of what took place. It was an enormous stress test on ordered liberty, a stress test brought on by the President of the United States.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
It's an opportunity for the right, the left, conservatives, liberals, all Americans to repudiate political violence and reaffirm, once again, our commitment to ordered liberty. It's the American way. I'm Albert Mohler.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
A lot of conversation around incitement. There's a lot of conversation around, did people call for specific action that resulted in the illegal acts and the criminal acts of last week? But let's take a step back and ask ourselves the question, has the media been covering for violent action in recent time? The answer is absolutely yes. From GQ magazine, why violent protests work. Now, let me be very clear. I don't share these views. We've talked about the difference between civil discord and civil disobedience. We've talked about how once you go to violence, you lose public opinion and you destroy other people's stuff and you can kill people, and that is not moral. However, this article by Laura Bassett goes through piece by piece why she believes violent protests work. And you can go back to a flashback where Chris Cuomo, cut 3, where he says, please show me where it says protesters are supposed to be polite and peaceful. Let's go to cut 3.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. Persistent and poisonous inequities and injustice. And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
So now they're going out of their way to call it an insurrection. However, back then they said, show me where you have to show polite and peaceful.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Immediately, my first response once I heard about what was going on is that this was a planned event. It had to be a planned event because I had been outside with these people for 2 days and they were the happiest, most joyful people. You had the prayer people who were there, a lot of prayer people. And then you also had what I would call the patriot people who were there giving speeches, carrying flags and that sort of thing. But again, not one angry speech. I didn't hear an angry speech, no mob mentality. There was nothing like that whatsoever. And there was actually a fairly scant presence of Capitol Police outside the building, at least on the east side. There just weren't that many people. There weren't that many Capitol Police. And it was surprising. I've been there when it's been joint sessions of Congress, when the vice president has been there. You can't get anywhere near that building. So
what could be more important? It's crazy, right? What could be more important? Yeah. You have the entire United States government gathered together in one room. You would think that there'd be more security there than for anything in the world. And somehow,
exactly, especially when there's 1 million people outside on the streets. That's what, none of it made sense. And after the event happened, every single piece of evidence that came showed me this was clearly a planned event. This was a planned event designed to do exactly what you're seeing day after day. It's identity theft. This was the left's victory. The left planned this.
Triple-8 971 SAGE 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. Welcome to the Larry Elder Show. We are talk radio at its finest. ReliefFactor.com. New poll: John McLaughlin. President Trump has a 49% approval rating. Congress 28%. Nancy Pelosi 33%, 59% disapproval. Chuck Schumer, 27%, 51% disapproval. McLaughlin, in his poll summary, said, and I'm quoting, voters are opposed to impeachment and big tech censorship. and they want a peaceful and orderly transition. Voters strongly prefer that Congress deal with fighting coronavirus and not impeachment. Impeachment is viewed as a waste of time and money. Voters believe that Democrats are playing politics and that continuing to attack the president is making it worse. They also believe that big tech is violating free speech, and if they can do that to President Trump, they can do that to any American, end of quote. We're going to get to big tech later on this hour if we can. But first, let's get to this impeachment. Here's what Matt Gaetz of Florida said.
Seems to me that impeachment is an itch that doesn't go away with just one scratch. It also seems that President Trump may be most likely to be impeached when he is correct. Before the last presidential impeachment, President Trump rightly pointed out the improper activities of the Biden crime family, and subsequently he's been proven right. And don't think for a moment, Madam Speaker, that we're going to drop that or stop our pursuit for the truth. Before that, we had the Russia hoax, where you had the president rightly making claims that Hillary Clinton and the DNC were colluding with Russians to disorient our democracy. How right he turned out to be. And then we have the 2020 presidential election, where the president correctly pointed out unconstitutional behavior, voting irregularities, concerns over tabulations, dead people voting, and now impeachment again. When they go low, we kick them. Eric Holder, former Attorney General under Barack Obama, breaching the Capitol was as low can be. We all denounce it. But who is it that they're kicking? The president, who created soaring highs for our economy, rising wages before the pandemic, 400 miles of wall to stop the caravans, who drew down troops in the Middle East and showed empathy for the forgotten men and women of our country. It's why so many people love him so much, and it's why they're kicking all of us. This president has faced unprecedented hatred and resistance from big media, big tech, and big egos, from congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle. Before the rioters tore through that glass, Speaker Pelosi stood at that rostrum and tore through the president's State of the Union speech, inciting anger, resentment, division. Some believe that truly these true colors are being shown now through this divisive partisan impeachment. The Speaker of the House, I would request an additional 40 seconds.
Tom McClintock, Republican, California.
Holding rioters accountable for their actions is the answer. And we are. And if we'd prosecuted BLM and Antifa rioters across the country with the same determination these last 6 months, this incident may not have happened at all. Now, short of declaring war, the power of impeachment is the most solemn and consequential act that Congress can take. To use it in this manner, in the heat of the moment, with no hearings, no due process, many members phoning in their votes after a hastily called debate, exactly 1 week before a new president is to take office, trivializes this power to the point of caricature. The Democrats have won everything in sight: the House, the Senate, and the presidency. In a republic, that calls for magnanimity by the victors. Only in a banana republic does it call for vengeance. Benjamin Franklin warned us that passion governs, and she never governs wisely. In our passions this week, we've set some dangerous new precedents that will haunt us for years to come. Yesterday, we redefined intemperate speech as a physical incapacity requiring removal from office. Today, we define it as a high crime and misdemeanor. Well, the moment any member of this body gives an impassioned speech and the lunatic fringe of their movement takes license from it, be prepared to answer to this new precedent that we established today. Now, I could cite plenty of provocative speeches made by Democrats that directly preceded violence this summer, but we've already had enough of that. You know, after 600,000 Americans had perished in the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln appealed to the better angels of our nature. He said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, let us bind up the nation's wounds." Those words were so important to the unity of our nation, they're inscribed in marble at the Lincoln Memorial. I cannot think of a more petty, vindictive, and gratuitous act than to impeach an already defeated president a week before he is to leave office. President-elect Biden's promise to heal the nation becomes a hollow mockery in the harsh reality of this unconstitutional act. God help our country.
Now, I've been looking at some headlines about the election of Donald Trump in 2016. BBC.com, November 22nd. Obviously, he hadn't taken office yet. Headline, Trump team won't pursue charges against Hillary Clinton. First sentence, Donald Trump will not investigate Hillary Clinton's email to help her heal, his spokeswoman said. CNN, Trump aide, no plan to pursue charges against Clinton. Despite chants of lock her up, lock her up. New York Times, same day, November 22, 2016, Donald Trump drops threat of new Hillary Clinton investigation. Lock her up, question mark? First sentence, the president-elect signaled he would prefer to move on rather than to pursue inquiries into Mrs. Clinton's email use and the Clinton Foundation. End of quote. Kind of a different attitude than we have right now, isn't it? Kevin McCarthy says there's no evidence at all that the riots were caused by Antifa.
Madam Speaker, let me be clear. Last week's violent attack on the Capitol was undemocratic, un-American, and criminal. Violence is never a legitimate form of protest. Freedom of speech and assembly under the Constitution is rooted in nonviolence. Yet the violent mob that descended upon this body was neither peaceful nor democratic. It acted to disrupt Congress's constitutional responsibility. It was also an attack on the people who work in this institution, members, staff, and the hundreds who work behind the scenes so that we can serve the American people.
Here's an article in Politico, November 22, 2016. Trump says he's not interested in pursuing case against Clinton. It's just not something I feel very strongly about, Trump told the New York Times. Off the record discussion, reporters New York Times. Trump cast his reversal as a unifying move. Contrary to some of the early backlash, he believes won't upset his supporters. Quote, says Trump, I don't think they'll be disappointed. I think I will explain it that we in many ways will save our country because prosecuting Clinton would be very, very divisive for the country. End of quote. Did Joe Biden say something like that? Did he pick up the phone and call Nancy Pelosi and say, this is stupid. He's not going anywhere. He's got 7 days. The Senate's not going to throw him out. He didn't incite a riot. The man exercised First Amendment rights by saying, go down peaceably and patriotically, make your voices heard. Knock it off, Nancy. Did Biden do that? Of course not. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
My husband and I are deeply rooted in Los Angeles. All our family's here. He has his, he's a physician. He has his practice. I'm a piano teacher. I have my students. Our whole family's here. And I am so upset with politics in California that I just want to pick up and move to Florida. But I don't know if it's the right decision, and I wanted to know your input.
Except for the friends and relatives, of course it's the right decision. The left has done to California what it did to universities and to the arts and to basketball and football. It ruins everything it touches. I never thought California could be ruined, and they have done it. Fecal matter, you have to step over human feces in San Francisco. They're a tsunami of destruction. That people vote Democrat is is astonishing to me. Anyway, I am the exact same position you are. I don't have family here. That's true.
Okay.
But I do have a world here. It's not. I mean, everyone, just about everyone in my life, other than my kids and their families, is here, and it's very, very hard to leave. I would love to leave, to be honest, and ultimately we may be forced. But you're young. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you because of the relatives and friends question. Now, you obviously you'll make new friends in Florida, although that's an odd way to regard friends. You're no friend is substitutable.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The most troubling kind of issue out of everything that we've seen in the last couple of days with big tech in particular is how Parler was targeted by three $1 trillion companies. Not only were these companies acted in a cartel manner, going after not just the distribution, but the hosting, Dr. Gorka, on the server space of Parler. Because we were always told, create a competitor, engage in the free market. And now we realize that you can't even create a competitor if the big tech oligarchy doesn't approve of it beforehand.
Now, you have an incredible enterprise. I was there for the SAS event in Florida with thousands of young Americans in December. What does this mean for Turning Point USA? So I don't want to berate Parler, but the idea that you're using Amazon's cloud services is a vulnerability. Is your organization potentially the next one? They're just going to turn switches off, Turning Point USA?
They could, and that's why talk radio is more important than ever before. And, I hope that we'll be able to continue to do podcasting. But look, we are preparing as if, the blue terror is going to continue, that the purge will not stop. And so anyone that thinks that they have some sort of inside access or that they're not going to get kicked off is fooling themselves. I hope that doesn't happen. And I want to be clear. It's not that I hope it doesn't happen because I want to make these companies happy. It's the millions of people that I think depend on our lines of communication, Dr. Gorka. Every single one of these interruptions, though, you have people that don't know how to get to the next platform. They're no longer following you. And so you have these continual migrations, right?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The American experiment is founded upon a presupposition, a prior commitment to an ordered liberty, an established.
Hi, this is Larry Dare from Anaheim. Just a quick settlement for Mr. Belichick. I heard that the president invited him to accept the Medal of Freedom, and he refused. If I may offer a suggestion for Mr. Belichick, he should go and say, accept the medal and say, thank you, Mr. President. I'm accepting this in honor of the funding for traditional black colleges and universities, and also for allowing college football athletes to enter the NFL without any hindrance from their colleges. Just suggest, buddy. Take care. God bless. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. We're talking about the fact that the House has impeached President Trump for the second time. This time, 10 Republicans joined. There were 0 Republicans joining the first time. And one of them is Liz Cheney. And I mentioned that I feel that Liz Cheney is probably steamed because of what Donald Trump said about her father. That her father, along with George W. Bush, lied us into the Iraq War. Now, I don't think I'd be big enough to let that slide. I'd like to think I would be. My father were vice president and agonized over the most grueling decision a president can make, and that is to send men and women into harm's way based upon the intelligence that they had. And then the head of the party down the road refers to my father as having lied us into that Iraq war that caused 4,000 Americans to lose their lives and tens of thousands to be injured permanently. Yeah, I'd be pretty steamed about that. So I think Liz Cheney is very angry about that. She adores her father. They have a wonderful relationship. So I give her a mulligan for her attitude towards President Trump. I really do. Now, former President Obama
said that Trump incited violence at the Capitol. Quote, history will rightly remember today's violence at the Capitol, incited by a sitting president who has continued to baselessly lie about the outcome of a lawful election as a moment of great dishonor and shame for our nation, end of quote. Again, Hillary for 4 years has used the S word, stolen, to describe what she thinks happened on election night in 2016. She called the president so many times illegitimate, I could retire if I had a dime every time she did it. Told Biden, under no circumstances, if it's a close election, not to concede. I'm hearing now it wasn't a close election. Well, tell that to Steve Kornacki, the political analyst over at MSNBC. As you guys know, I like to use left-wing sources. That way you can't attack me unless you're willing to attack left-wing sources. He says 40,000 votes were the difference between President Trump being reelected and Joe Biden being elected. 40,000 votes. Hillary told Joe Biden not to concede under any circumstances if the election is close. Do you think 40,000 is close? But I guess the same advice doesn't apply for President Trump. Now, regarding Obama saying that the president continued to baselessly lie about the outcome of election, great dishonor and shame to our nation, brought our nation to a crescendo of violence. Now, I told you yesterday that there were 10 officers killed execution style during Mr. Obama's second term. 2 officers in New York, 3 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and 5 in Dallas, all killed execution style, as I was attempting to explain to my caller Hayes from Dallas the other day. And the point is, a lot of police officers felt that President Obama created an atmosphere that enabled, encouraged, incited, use your favorite verb, 3 different black men, all of whom either posted on social media or told people how much they hated the police because of this belief that the police were killing blacks just because they're black. It's false. The studies show the opposite. But that did not stop Obama from making all sorts of anti-police statements, to the point where William Johnson, the executive editor of the National Association of Police Organizations, said, quote, I think the Obama administration's continued appeasement at the federal level with the DOJ, their appeasement of violent criminals, their refusal to condemn movements like Black Lives Matter, while blaming police for problems in this country, has led directly to the climate that has made Dallas possible, end of quote, referring to the 5 officers who were killed. Back then, here is what House Republican, Alabama Republican Mo Brooks said.
Mr. Speaker, never has an American president been so willing to shoot first and ask questions later when a police officer uses deadly force in self-defense or to protect innocent lives. Never in American history has a president's legacy been a consistent disregard for the rule of law. Time after time, after police shootings of African Americans, the Obama administration's knee-jerk, racially divisive strategy has been to paint a disturbingly false image of racial bias in police shootings that conflicts with a recent 2016 Harvard University study that found that police are 24% less likely to fire upon African Americans than Caucasian Americans.
If you're just now joining the Larry Elder Show, I am playing something from 2016. This is House Republican from Alabama, Mo Brooks, linking Obama's rhetoric to the execution-style murders of several officers, including 5 in Dallas in 2016. The reason I'm playing this, if you want to say that President Trump created the atmosphere that encouraged some number of thugs, idiots, rioters to attack the Capitol building, then why can't you say the same thing about President Barack Obama? But you didn't. The media didn't. Democrats didn't. Mo Brooks from Alabama did.
For emphasis, let me repeat that. A 2016 Harvard University study by African American professor Roland Fryer found that police fire upon African Americans 24% less often than police fire upon Caucasian Americans. On July 7th, well before the facts of 2 police shootings of African Americans were known, President Obama again stoked racial prejudice flames by claiming that, quote, black folks are more vulnerable to these kinds of incidents, end quote. President Obama even defended subsequent, sometimes violent protest as rather benign, quote, expressions of outrage, end quote. Shortly after, the Obama administration attacked the motives of America's law enforcement officers and perhaps helped inspire even more violence against police, a Dallas sniper gunned down 5 police officers and injured many others during a Black Lives Matter protest. The shooter justified his murders by stating that he was upset by police shootings, referenced Black Lives Matter, and stated that he wanted to kill white people, especially white police officers. 3 days later, after these horrific murders of police officers, President Obama reiterated his politically motivated racial division narrative by blaming the attacks in part on a racial prejudice problem that police must fix because, quote, that is what's going to ultimately help make the job of being a cop a lot safer, end quote. Showing great chutzpah at the Dallas memorial ceremony for the slain officers, Obama again publicly blamed police racial bias as a contributing cause of police assassinations. Mr. Speaker, when tearful Americans seek solace and unification, the Obama administration dishes out racism and anti-police profiling that helps inspire even more violence.
No connection there, though, right? I'm Larry Elder.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The American experiment is founded upon a presupposition, a prior commitment to an ordered liberty, an established order. That means policies. It means a covenant. In our case, it means a constitution. As of right now, the U.S. Constitution is the longest surviving written constitution in human history. It's a remarkable document. All of that came to the fore in violent events that interrupted the joint session of Congress to count the votes of the Electoral College. At the end of the day, our constitutional order proved itself once again resilient. But that doesn't take away any of the tragedy and the horror of what took place. It was an enormous stress test on ordered liberty, a stress test brought on by the President of the United States.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
It's an opportunity for the right, the left, conservatives, liberals, all Americans to repudiate political violence and reaffirm, once again, our commitment to ordered liberty. It's the American way. I'm Albert Mohler.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
A lot of conversation around incitement. There's a lot of conversation around, did people call for specific action that resulted in the illegal acts and the criminal acts of last week? But let's take a step back and ask ourselves the question, has the media been covering for violent action in recent time? The answer is absolutely yes. From GQ magazine, why violent protests work. Now, let me be very clear. I don't share these views. We've talked about the difference between civil discord and civil disobedience. We've talked about how once you go to violence, you lose public opinion and you destroy other people's stuff and you could kill people, and that is not moral. However, this article by Laura Bassett goes through piece by piece why she believes violent protests work. And you can go back to a flashback where Chris Cuomo, cut 3, where he says, please show me where it says protesters are supposed to be polite and peaceful. Let's go to cut 3.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. Persistent and poisonous inequities and injustice. And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
So now they're going out of their way to call it an insurrection. However, back then they said, show me where you have to show polite and peaceful.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Immediately, my first response once I heard about what was going on is that this was a planned event. It had to be a planned event because I had been outside with these people for 2 days and they were the happiest, most joyful people. You had the prayer people who were there, a lot of prayer people. And then you also had what I would call the patriot people who were there giving speeches, carrying flags and that sort of thing. But again, not one angry speech. I didn't hear an angry speech, no mob mentality. There was nothing like that whatsoever. And there was actually a fairly scant presence of Capitol Police outside the building, at least on the east side. There just weren't that many people. There weren't that many Capitol Police. And it was surprising. I've been there when it's been joint sessions of Congress, when the vice president...
Hey, Larry. First thing, I loved your movie, Uncle Tom. It was very, very informative. Second thing is, thank God for President Trump. I would not know how much trouble this country was really in had it not been for him, because he brought these people out. They are attacking them left and right, and now we know what the country's all about, or at least half of it. Thanks, Larry.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio talking about this ridiculous second impeachment of President Trump. Now, the social media platform Parler, if you've tried to post anything, as I have several days, you can't get on it. It's been pretty much shut down. And the reason that it was shut down is the belief that Parler was used by these thugs to organize this siege at the Capitol building on Wednesday. Glenn Greenwald is a reporter. He's a liberal, but he's one of those fair, honest ones like Dershowitz, like Jonathan Turley. And here's what he said about the connection between Parler and the first 13 people who've been arrested.
So of the first 13 people arrested by the FBI in connection with the event at the Capitol, a total of 0 were active users of Parler. The overwhelming amount of planning for that event, the overwhelming amount of advocacy for people to go there and to breach the Capitol was done on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter. And this is one of the ironies, is that Google was one of the monopolies that wants to police our discourse and control our thinking and rule our politics, that kicked Parler off of its app at exactly the time that Parler had gone to #1, the most downloaded app in the country, millions of Americans wanting to use it. Google said, we will not allow you on our service because you have the role that you played in stimulating violence and extremism at the Capitol and elsewhere.
FBI gave a briefing on the riot at the Capitol.
I'm Stephen D'Antuono, Assistant Director in charge of the Washington Field Office of the FBI, and I'm here to provide a quick update on the FBI's activities since the violence and destruction at the Capitol last week. The FBI is quite familiar with large-scale, complex, and fast-moving investigations. We are up to the challenge. As Director Wray says, the FBI does not do easy. To be clear, the brutality the American people watched with shock and disbelief on the 6th will not be tolerated by the FBI. The men and women of the FBI will leave no stone unturned in this investigation. Since these events, the FBI has worked hand in hand with the United States Attorney's Office and our law enforcement partners here in D.C. and across the country to arrest and charge multiple individuals who took part in the destruction.
Now, as you heard, the reporter said that of the first 15 people arrested by the authorities for this riot at the Capitol Hill building, none were on the Parler platform. Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg says, hey, don't blame us.
Well, we know this was organized online. We know that.
We, again, took down QAnon, Proud Boys, Stop the Steal, anything that was talking about possible violence last week. Our enforcement's never perfect, so I'm sure there were still things on Facebook. I think these events were largely organized on platforms that don't have our abilities to stop hate and don't have our standards and don't have our transparency. But certainly to this day, we are working to find any single mention that might be leading to this and making sure we get it down as quickly as possible.
National Guard has deployed 4 times more guards persons than the number of troops in Afghanistan and Iraq. At least 20,000 National Guard members are expected to be in D.C. for Biden's inauguration. The Metro Police Chief said, quote, I think you can expect to see somewhere upwards beyond 20,000 members of the National Guard that will be here in the footprint of the District of Columbia, end of quote. When asked whether he'd ever seen that level of law enforcement in Washington, D.C., he said, and I'm quoting, not at this level, no, end of quote. He said that since the inauguration was designated as a national special security event, the final numbers of the Guard deployed in the city, quote, will be provided from the United States Secret Service, end of quote. The 20,000 Guard members is an increase of 5,000 as 15,000 were previously deployed by the Department of Defense earlier to the city. Military Times said 15,000 Guard members, twice the number of troops in Afghanistan and Iraq due to the drawdown of 2,500 troops in both nations. Guards were previously deployed in D.C. following the 9/11 terror attacks and in 1968 after the assassination of Martin Luther King sparked riots. But neither deployed the estimated 20,000 that will be on hand for Biden's inauguration. Now, I've been telling you about Relief Factor for a long time. Some say there might be 100 million folks struggling with some level of pain, whether from exercise or just getting older. Pete and Seth Talbot are on a mission. They want to get as many people out of pain as possible. That's why they've come up with the 3-week quick start. The doctors at Formula selected 4 100% drug-free ingredients, each of which deal with pain from a different metabolic pathway. So if you're suffering from back, shoulder, hip, knee pain, foot pain, try it. Give your body what it needs to heal itself. It's only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, we're talking about less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day to stay out of pain. ReliefFactor.com. ReliefFactor.com. 800-500-8384. 800-500-8384.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I love the idea that states get involved, and why shouldn't they? We are a republic of states. Does that mean, Charlie Kirk, that we are condemned in the near to medium term to have a totally bifurcated U.S. economy along political lines?
I think we're already there. I think when you have Salesforce say that they will not host the Republican National Committee, then all of a sudden those lines have been drawn. When you have Shopify that says that President Trump's campaign can't sell hats or T-shirts, when you have Spotify that says the president cannot use their platform, we're already there. And guess what? Here's the reality of it. When you have a company that actually cares about platform access and is really driven by normal capitalistic profit incentives up against the wokesters, we're going to win. In the short term, their capital flows will benefit them. These companies have such insane amounts of uninterrupted capital. They're allowed to do foolish things like this. Yeah. But that will end up getting challenged if we do our job. And that's where the coalition of Republican states need to get into subsidizing and the investing of, I just call it First Amendment infrastructure.
I love it. First Amendment infrastructure. Let's build it. Let's create a campaign. I want to be part of it. Charlie Kirk is going to lead the way. We can defeat those who wish to use big tech to undermine our civil rights. Oh, and by the way, where are the libertarians? Huh. Strangely so quiet. What a surprise there.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
so I left the prayer chapel right off the rotunda. And actually, it's a good thing that I left when I did, because it was literally just minutes later that the agitators broke into the building and came in. And I'm glad that I wasn't confused with them, because I was wearing normal clothes, just normal mom clothes.
But of course, we're being confused with them now, because everyone who's
by design, Eric,
everyone who's pro-Trump is being accused of being a violent agitator. And I just want to be on the record as saying that is nonsense. It's worse than nonsense. It's an evil lie. And we need to keep saying that over and over, because this is a truly despicable lie. And we have to say it over and over and remind ourselves and everyone who's listening what nonsense this is, that a few hundred people, we don't know who they are. Obviously, some of them were pro-Trump. Some of them now we know were not pro-Trump. They had infiltrated, but it's a whole madness. But it was a few hundred people, and literally 1 million plus people outside there for this joyous thing, and they are being lumped in.
Try to get everybody to go and make purchases from Amazon of a large item. A large item costs more to ship. And then once they get the item, call up Amazon and return the item. Amazon's going to have to pay for it again. Maybe somebody might want to even open their item, and that will make it so Amazon can't sell it as a new item. It's a used item. They lost more money. We got to fight back against Amazon. It's the only way I can think of.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Now, you heard me talk about MyPillow, how it's changed the quality of my sleep. These puppies do not go flat. You can wash and dry them as many times as you want. They maintain their shape. They're made right here in the country. And for a limited time, Mike is offering his premium MyPillows for his lowest price ever. Standard Queen Premium for $29.98. Normally, $69.98. That's a $40 savings. Kings are only $5 more. Not only are you getting the lowest price ever, $29.98 for a Standard Queen Premium, but Mike is extending his 60-day money-back guarantee to March 1st. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use promo code Larry. You're going to find not only this amazing offer, but also deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets, the MyPillow mattress topper, and the MyPillow towel sets. Or you can call 800-890-1843. That's 800-890-1843. Make sure you use promo code Larry. Hillary Clinton has also attacked the president, accused him of inciting violence, and said the second impeachment, however, will not make white supremacy go away. Do you know who once called Hillary a white supremacist from the left? Mr. McConnell, you know what I'm talking about? You don't remember during the 2016 campaign? That pastor, that priest in Chicago, Father Flager, he was giving a sermon at a black church, and he was talking about how Hillary had the nomination, assumed she was hers because she was white. You don't remember that?
I said before, and I really don't want to make this political, because you know I'm very unpolitical. But Reverend Moss, when Hillary was crying, and people said that was put on, I really don't believe it was put on. I really believe that she just always thought, this is mine. I'm Bill's wife. I'm white. And this is mine. I just got to get up and step into the plate. And then out of nowhere came, hey, I'm Barack Obama. And she said, oh, damn, where did you come from? I'm white. I'm entitled.
Isn't that calling her privilege?
There's a black man stealing my show.
So here you have a white priest ridiculing white Hillary because Hillary assumed she would get the nomination, didn't get it, and this white priest is ridiculing her because she assumed, according to this white priest, that she had this done because she's white. Another social justice warrior, white guy, out there letting you all know when other white people are engaging in white privilege. And in this case, he accused Hillary Clinton of engaging in white privilege. That's what he said. Of course he did.
I said before, and I really don't want to make this political because you know I'm very unpolitical. But
nothing like getting in front of a bunch of black people and calling another white person a racist or accusing another white person of white privilege, even if it's a white Democrat like Hillary.
Reverend Moss, when Hillary was crying, and people said that was put on, I really don't believe it was put on. I really believe that she just always thought, this is mine. I'm Bill's wife. I'm white. And this is mine. I just got to get up and step into the plate. And then out of nowhere came, hey, I'm Barack Obama. And she said, oh, damn, where did you come from? I'm white. I'm entitled. There's a black man stealing my show.
Wow. So Hillary Clinton has white privilege. If she has white privilege, of course, and everybody's got white privilege, right? I think even black people have white privilege. Who doesn't have white privilege? Washington Post says a Capitol Hill police officer who was on duty during the riot has died by suicide, according to his family. Howard Liebengood, son and namesake of a former Senate Sergeant at Arms, took his own life Saturday. 51 years old, went by the name Howie, had been an officer guard in the Capitol since 2005. The U.S. Capitol Hill Police did not list a cause when it announced his death. But a spokesman for the family confirmed that he died by suicide and had been on duty at the Capitol on Wednesday. We have absolutely no idea about the cause. Friends describe him as humble, reserved. Did he feel guilty about what happened? I have no idea. And Parler is asking a U.S. court to order Amazon to restore service to the social media app, which has been down now for, 4 or 5 days? Trump was in Texas talking about his achievements of 4 years, in particular about the border wall.
But unlike those who came before me, I kept my promises. And today we celebrate an extraordinary milestone, the completion of the promised 450 miles of border wall.
This is yesterday.
450 miles. Nobody realizes how big that is. I remember when I first came down about a year and a half ago, we're under construction, and I started walking. And I'm looking at the wall, and I'm walking and walking. And I'm used to like a development project where you could walk a wall.
More on President Trump's visit to Texas when we come back. 888-971-SAGE is our number. Now, why is Relief Factor so successful in lowering or eliminating pain? Well, the Dr. Sun owners of Relief Factor say they believe our bodies are designed to heal. That's right, designed to heal. And the doctors who formulated Relief Factor for them selected the 4 best ingredients, all of which are 100% drug-free ingredients, to help your body deal with pain. Each deals with pain from a different metabolic pathway. So if you have back pain, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise or just getting older, you ought to try the 3-week Quick Start. It's only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The most troubling kind of issue out of everything that we've seen in the last couple of days with big tech in particular is how Parler was targeted by three $1 trillion companies. Not only were these companies acted in a cartel manner, going after not just the distribution, but the hosting, Dr. Gorka, on the server space of Parler. Because we were always told, create a competitor, engage in the free market, and now we realize that you can't even create a competitor if the big tech oligarchy doesn't approve of it beforehand.
Now, you have an incredible enterprise. I was there for the SAS event in Florida with thousands of young Americans in December. What does this mean for Turning Point USA? So I don't want to berate Parler, but the idea that you're using Amazon's cloud services is a vulnerability. Is your organization potentially the next one? They're just going to turn switches off, Turning Point USA?
They could, and that's why talk radio is more important than ever before. And, you know, I hope that we'll be able to continue to do podcasting. But look, we are preparing as if, you know, the blue terror is going to continue, that the purge will not stop. And so anyone that thinks that they have some sort of inside access or that they're not going to get kicked off is fooling themselves. I hope that doesn't happen. And I want to be clear. It's not that I hope it doesn't happen because I want to make these companies happy. It's the millions of people that I think depend on our lines of communication, Dr. Gorka. Every single one of these interruptions, though, you have people that don't know how to get to the next platform. They're no longer following you. And so you have these continual migrations, right?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Albert.
Hello, Larry. You're a great guy, and you're a great American. I'm Bob from West Virginia. What we need to do is organize the states. We need to organize all of their media, all the people that we can get in touch with there that have any influence, and we need to do it soon with the legislature, the parties that exist there, and so forth. We've been neglecting the states for too long. Seems like the Secretary of State project by Mr. Soros has worked out famously. We need to reverse that. Thank you, and keep up the good work.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Well, that's what Peter Navarro said. Peter Navarro is the one to put together that report that outlined what he perceived to be voting irregularities, voting inconsistencies, mathematical improbabilities, and outright fraud. He said the other day, we need to reverse engineer what happened in this election. Figure out what they did, and let's match them. Exactly what I said. Is somebody listening to my show? Now, the zip poll question I left you with yesterday. Do you believe Kamala Harris will become president before the end of what would have been Joe Biden's first term? 88% of you believe that that's exactly what's going to happen. So do I, by the way. Here's the one for tonight. We'll go over the results tomorrow. Assuming Donald Trump does not run again in 2024, do you want Vice President Mike Pence to become the Republican nominee? Either yes or no. In order to participate, you must be a member of the Zip community. Go to your app store, download the Zip app by searching under Zip Poll USA, and be sure and use my code SAGE, S-A-G-E. President Obama in Texas yesterday talking about the border crossings down where we had built the wall.
In every region that we've built the wall, illegal crossings and drug smuggling have plummeted, absolutely plummeted. In the Rio Grande Valley, crossings have dropped nearly 80%. In Yuma, Arizona, illegal entries have been slashed by 90%. Nationwide, ICE and Border Patrol have seized over 2 million pounds of fentanyl, heroin, meth, and other deadly narcotics, saving thousands and thousands of lives. We've arrested nearly 500,000 illegal aliens with criminal records, some with very serious criminal records of the type you don't want to know about, like murder. We removed nearly 20,000 gang members from the United States, including 4,500 members of MS-13.
He also said that the Odds of him being taken out because of the 25th Amendment? 0. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be sure and check out my robe rages every morning on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Larry Elder Show Radio. Just go over there right now. Hit the button, Larry Elder Show Radio. I am Larry Elder. We've got a country to save. Absolutely no S. Ciao.